It's the Meister, your favorite drinking buddy from Brews and Tunes. Today, I'm very excited to say I'm talking with Kyle Thomas, singer and founding member of the kick-ass thrash metal band Exhorder. Also has done work with Trouble and multiple other bands. So very excited to be chatting with you today, Kyle. So thank you very much for meeting with me.
Absolutely, thank you. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, this is very exciting. I have so many questions I want to ask you, but I guess let's start with the really exciting news that was posted on your Facebook page recently is that you are and the band are in the process of putting together a new album.
That is correct, sir. Yes, we've been writing pretty diligently since we got off the tour last year, and some of the stuff's maybe stuff that people are dusting off here and there, but a lot of it's new. Everybody's kicking in, and it's really nice having a strong group effort by a team of guys that are just so after it. These guys are as hungry as anybody else that I've ever known. So it's a pleasure writing with them, and it's a pleasure playing live with them always.
Nice. And I've heard you say this before and read about this as well in other interviews that especially with the band now, it's very much a collaborative effort in terms of writing. Is that accurate?
Yeah. We've always, especially in the early days, we're talking about before we were even older. We had the Get Rude demo was actually our second demo. We did a 3-song, really basic kind of 2-track live thing. That was the first one. That was Legions of Death, Ripping Flesh. And I want to say Analust was on there too. So yeah, before we even really had a name, we were going down to the college radio station and playing that thing on the DJs would let us in and promote the local bands. They were really cool about that. So that was fun. But David Main, Andy Villafara, Vinny and Chris, everybody would getting together, throwing ideas around, putting everything into an arrangement. And then, once I came around, either the arrangements were perfect or I said, hey, let's try this, let's try that. So yeah, it was kind of like that from jump. There's some songs that some guys wrote either all by themselves or, a large portion by themselves, but that's pretty much the case. That's how it's always been.
Nice. Now with the new album, with the new material that you guys are writing, is it in a similar vein as the More in the Southern Skies? Are you kind of building off of that, or are you taking a new direction at all? Or
some of it'll be probably along the lines of that. Some of it'll be old school thrash too, and I kind of just, I guess, expect what you usually expect from us, but don't expect too much and let the surprises and curveballs come as they may.
Nice.
So yeah, we're just always trying to write the best album possible, not just with Exhorder, but any band I'm in. Nobody wants to put out a turd legacy, So
right.
You just try your best and construct the best crafted songs, record them a few times until you know for sure this works here, this doesn't work here. That's probably the best thing I've been able to do for myself in the past few years is with the advent of home recording. I could just record it over and over again until I like what I'm hearing a lot, and not necessarily sitting in a position where you were either writing in the studio or you recorded something, you're like, man, I wish I could have that take back.
Right.
To me, like in this day and age, if you make a terrible sounding album, shame on you.
Right. Yeah, with the technology now, it seems
exactly.
And it seems that bands, especially now, especially in these crazy times in this pandemic, is with the technology and being able to do home studios and even not necessarily a home studio, but just the technology that you can do some pretty decent demoing, I would imagine, even on your phone.
Yep. App, what is it? Guitar something. Guitar Hero, or I don't know. There's an app on the phone where you literally can record an album from it. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that's pretty amazing. It's pretty amazing. So let's talk about maybe a little bit about, and I know the band, you know, one, you know, broke up, you know, back in '93, I guess, originally, but there was, you know, kind of a resurgence, or not a resurgence, but you got back together for a short period of time in the, you know, kind of mid 2000s.
Yeah, yes.
Late, you know, 2008, somewhere around there. And then, you know, of course, this wonderful, amazing album right here came out in 2019. Kind of what was the you know, how did that happen? What was the impetus of, you know, deciding let's get Exhorder back and put out an album, you know, after, geez, close to 30 years. You know, what was kind of that catalyst for you?
I mean, I really think, you know, we always felt like we had a lot more work that we left on the table than we got accomplished. You know, it's just the nature of the beast. When you break up, get back together, break up, get back together, and then take a 27-year break.
Right.
I mean, I don't know. It just, I guess it was more like a, let's get out here and keep, you know, saying what we got to say. So that's pretty much where it led to. And the fact that there was pretty strong demand for it. People really wanted to see it and hear it again. So, you know, it's not as easy to put something like that back together on a decent level when there's not much interest, you know. So we've always been blessed in that regard. The interest has always been there, whether we were or not. So you have no idea how grateful I am to everyone for that.
Was that, I don't know if I want to, was that surprising to you, the kind of, you know, following that you've had over, you know, especially when you kind of put it to bed, not necessarily put it to bed, but, you know, you hadn't been in the band for a long time, and then to find out that there are a lot of people like myself that are like, holy shit, if Exhorder got back together, you know, if we could see another album from that band or even a tour or something like that, was that surprising to you to learn over the years there were so many people that still wanted to see and hear the band?
And that's when, at that point, there's a stark realization that it's bigger than any individual. It's bigger than me. It's bigger than anyone else that's suited up and played with us on stage or in the studio or whatever. So the power of music, I mean, what else can you say? You know, that once we write it and share it with everybody, it no longer belongs to just us. It's everybody's. And that's how I've always felt about the music that I grew up listening to and still listen to. You know, it's, you become possessive of it in a way, and you feel like there's a bond or a link. And, you know, it's, sometimes you have to step away from that, try to see it from another point of view. But yeah, it's an interesting spin on it for sure.
Yeah, I would imagine it's both humbling and invigorating at the same time. You know, definitely in the sense that, you know, I watched not too long ago, I watched some footage of you guys playing at Hellfest, and I think it was 2018, 2017, 2018.
Yeah.
And yeah, just, you could tell how much you feed off the energy of the crowd, and the crowd is so into it. Yeah, like I said, it's got to be both humbling and invigorating at the same time, I would think.
Yeah, you know, the bigger the stage, you know, your adrenaline levels just take over. It's crazy, you know. I've always, you know, when I teach my students how confidence is so important, and in that kind of situation, I would be more comfortable singing in front of tens of thousands of people than singing in front of, you know, 4. And it's a crazy thing, man, that like the bigger the crowd, it's just, I don't know if it's because you kind of become detached, you know, there's a lot more distance between you and the front row. So it's less personable maybe on that level, but it's just so much bigger. It really brings you up to another level. But at the same time, if you're on a small stage, the band's all on top of each other, small club, and it's packed to the gills, that's a pretty amazing feeling also. So just being able to get in either situation at this point and deliver these songs and it's funny, I have to really, really stay in shape. I have to train in advance to go on tour so I can do the show.
Yeah,
But, you know,
yeah, because I mean, you move around that stage quite a bit. You know, I mean, you're a very energetic singer, and I mean, and definitely feed off of the music and the audience, which you know, as a fan is always exciting to see, rather than somebody just standing there and you know, and let's be honest, I think you and I are about the same age. You know, we're not young men anymore, and you know, yeah, I would imagine you've got to
sure.
prep for that.
Yeah. Knee braces for the jumps, you know, making sure I wear some kind of sensible shoes. That's always important. But yeah, I mean, just the way I felt when we came back together, especially from the live aspect, my performance live with this band in particular has always been, you know, like imagine a spring popping loose and just bouncing around the room. That's how I did it when I was young. So I feel like I've got to do my best to try and deliver that at 50. And that's been challenging at times, but the gym helps for sure. And staying limber helps. So plenty of rest and, you know, just come in prepared. And that's about the best way that I can do it. And until I get to the point where I can't really do anything but use the mic stand to hold me up, then it's probably time to stop playing these shows.
Nice. Let's take a step back in time a little bit, and I'm curious, as far as being a musician, what got you started into music in the first place?
Good question. Yeah, I started really young. I was in 3rd grade. And the school band director came around to all the classrooms with a case full of instruments and showing them one by one, letting the kids come up and take a turn on them. And man, I saw the saxophone. I was like, I gotta have this damn saxophone. So I went home and asked my dad if we could go get a saxophone. We went to the neighborhood music store. They brought the saxophone out, and I was like, yeah. I mean, really, I was 3rd grade, but I was with the mindset that, like, if I play this instrument, the girls are not going to be able to stay away from me. So, that was my motivation. I'm not kidding. And so I saw the look on my dad's face when the guy told him the price. I was like, oh, no. So they go back to the counter, come back after talking for a few minutes. Hey, check out this nice trumpet, son. I was like, oh, God, no. That's how I ended up starting, playing trumpet in 3rd grade, took private lessons. And then I guess 5 years later, I really just had fallen out of love with it. I got really good at the trumpet, but I just didn't have a passion for it. But what I learned there with the fundamentals of music was really important. So I picked up on bass and guitar when I was 14 and played that extensively until I sang enough in practice sessions that people kept asking me to sing and asking me to play bass less and less, which didn't make me happy. I was a bass player, right. But that's how it happened for me. So, I mean, I still play bass. I still play guitar. Mostly I just around here writing songs and recording them. That's the majority of the playing I do. I don't really like practice. I did enough of that when I was a kid. I'll just play now. Right. But yeah, I started at a very young age, man. And just kind of rolled into other things. I've always liked bouncing around like that. Being well-rounded, I can play the drums well enough. I can play the harmonica well enough. I don't know. If it makes noise, I'll pick it up and try to figure it out. Even if I don't play it fluently, I'll get it to do something. That's got a lot to do with getting that early fundamentals pounded in my brain with the trumpet. And that's, like, to me, like, for young parents that wondering what to do with their kids, piano lessons or guitar lessons or anything, see if they're interested, of course, at first, but like learning piano is probably the best thing that can happen for a kid musically, I would think. I still don't fluently play the piano, but 3 of my children took lessons and they benefited greatly from the lessons, whether they liked it or not at the time.
Right. Yeah, I totally agree with you. My son and my daughter, both of them, yeah, took piano lessons when they were kids. And my son is it's funny you mentioned saxophone. He's a fantastic saxophone player. He's in his 20s now, but he can pick up any instrument, and just, I mean, you know, he'll send me little videos of him, you know, like playing Iron Maiden solos on a ukulele. You know, it's pretty crazy. So, kind of along the same lines, who, especially in terms of being a vocalist, who were you inspired by? You know, who were the singers that you listened to as a kid, you know, that inspired you in terms of what you became with Exhorder?
That's probably a trick question, because looking back further in my history, like straight from childhood, from my earliest musical memories, my influences start there with, you know, Beatles, you know, and Led Zeppelin, Deep Purple, Kiss, Queen, Bad Company, so much that I heard a lot from my sisters, and you know, a lot on the radio. But I'd say when I really started diving into singing, like I'd say right out the gates, early influences when I started jamming in bands on bass and singing backups and stuff, or like taking lead in a song. I was molding myself after, you know, Blackie Lawless, James Hetfield, Tom Araya, probably. You know, that was probably closer to the thrash years. But in the early days, I'm trying to be Ozzy, and, you know, I didn't think I had it in me to do the really, really insane vocals at the time. I just was like, I can just sing well enough, you know, and I guess I did, because I ended up getting the Exhorter gig when I was 16. And so when I went back to school my sophomore year, my junior year, after that summer after sophomore year, when I joined Exhorter, I joined the school chorus, and it was part of curriculum. So it wasn't like, you know, just something to do on the weekends, or, you know, in church or whatever. We sang every day. That was probably around the time that I really had my biggest epiphany with singing, like, oh wow, I actually can do this. I joined just to get a little better, and it turns out I excelled. I was fortunate to find it that way, because I never went looking for it. I never wanted to be a singer. I'm not kidding. Huh. But yeah, like around, you know, I guess around like thrash and punk and stuff, I really liked, you know, Mike Dean and Reed Mullins singing on the Animosity albums, like gospel, you know, with Corrosion Conformity, and, you know, DRI, Slayer, Metallica, Exodus, so many, you know, those early things, Dead Kennedys, Roger Miret from Gnostic Front. I mean, I could go on all day. My point is you hear these things, and it helps you mold. When you're a young singer, you kind of do that. You take influence off of your influences, and kind of find yourself. It takes a long time to really truly find yourself, I think. You know, I don't know. Some people just come out Jim Morrison their ass off.
Right.
I had to work a little harder. Yeah, I mean, I said I had to work a little harder at it. But yeah, I mean, it took me probably until I was 30 before I really just figured out, man, I can really put the choral part of this into singing and rock. You know, and there I was all of a sudden hitting notes out of the stratosphere that I didn't know I had. It's like, at the time I called it God's cruel joke and revenge, you know, like, maybe you shouldn't have said the things you said when you were young. So.
Nice. So kind of following on with those early years of the band, you know, especially the inception of it, you know, as you said, you know, these singers that influenced you, and so for people that don't know, the band came out of New Orleans. What was the scene like in New Orleans at that time? Was there a strong underground metal punk scene happening there?
Oh yeah. When we first were starting, it was really weird that the punk scene and the metal scene were really not together yet. For some reason, there was a little bit of a divide, and at that time, most of the metal scene was more on the the hair metal, glam metal side. And there were a handful of heavy bands, but the really successful shows and the promoters and stuff, they kind of shied away from the heavier stuff. And I had just recently started going with my brother to go see shows in the punk rock community, and I was hooked right away. I was 15 years old, and it took a minute for me to fall for punk music. It did. My brother tried to get me to like it, and I probably resisted because he was my brother, but eventually realized, oh wow, I really love it. And I think what really warmed me up to it was seeing pictures of Slayer with like verbal abuse stickers on their guitars, or Metallica wearing Misfits. It was like, okay, well, like, this is kind of a cool thing. And then when I got a hold of Animosity, I was like, wait, hold on, that's Bill Matoyer. Oh wow, okay. And oh yeah. And you're looking at the label affiliation, all these things,
right.
Going, yeah. So it just kind of warmed me up to the idea of maybe punk's cool, and then that crossover is what brought me in. And then I started diving out into the punk stuff and, hardcore and all that stuff. And really kind of even started drifting a little further away from true thrash. I was just like less interested in it than I was in the punk. And, to this day, it's weird. It's like all of it is a huge part of me. But I like to pay homage to it. We get lumped into thrash metal quite easily, but I don't know if it's necessarily that easy to truly label us with a genre. I don't know that we have just one.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah, in fact, it's funny. My wife, these are her words. She hates the genre game, as she calls it.
Genres and
yeah, and she's like, no, you like what you like. Like, yeah. So, that's an interesting take on it. To go down the genre game, I'm going to play the genre game a little bit. So, I mean, really, Exhorder is, in my mind and a lot of people's mind, is the pioneer of what people call groove metal, which is, that thrash groove metal. When you in those early years of the band, did you have a realization at any point, or was it just kind of organic where you thought, wow, we're actually doing something a little different than other people are doing? Like, was there that realization at all? And also, sorry, I know this is kind of a loaded question.
No, that's okay.
And I'm also curious if the environment you were in had an impact with kind of those grooves, specifically, being in New Orleans with the jazz and blues and Zydeco. Was that part of it, maybe subconsciously?
Yeah. We all come by the uniqueness that the New Orleans sound, like the true New Orleans sound, it makes its way across the community, across the land, and takes no prisoners. It's great stuff. It's what we heard, as kids in the car, on our family stereos, and people around the world, the Beatles, the Rolling Stones, some of the greatest musicians of all time, Bob Dylan, they all come here to connect with that scene and that sound, and it's just really amazing. We all danced to it at our school fair when we were in first grade or kindergarten. These little songs like by the Meters. They have a song called "They All Asked for You," and it's going down to the zoo and all this stuff. It's a great song for kids, but it's a great song by the Meters also. So pretty incredible all across the board. But Dr. John, the list goes on and on. It's just, I could spit them out all day long, but you get the point. So that definitely had a play in how we came to have these breakdowns and grooves, especially. I think you get those, you're dropping a halftime and it's heavy and it's counter rhythmic to the drums or whatever. It's all really cool. But we're not the only band that, of the heavy bands, we're not the only one that is infiltrated. You listen to just about all of them. There's on occasion, you know, like if it's a grindcore band or a black metal band, you might hear a little less of it. But that's not to say that it's not there.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little bit more specialized, I think, music that has less call for it, you know?
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. Sorry, I just forgot what I was going to ask you.
But did I answer your question?
Yes,
Well?
yes, thank you. Yeah. Well, because I always kind of wondered, because there was, I mean, you know, especially, well, even now, I mean, your music's very heavy, it's very aggressive, but yeah, there is that groove to it. So I always kind of wondered, it's like, there's kind of, you know, some of it seems like it's a reaction to the music that was around you, but also it seemed like you were incorporating a little bit of, like you said, the groove, the, you know, those kind of beats.
Our original bass player, Andy, not only played in metal bands, he played in whatever band he felt like. He played in blues bands, funk bands, like 70s funk bands, you know. And so jazz, he could play it all. And that, Chris was a jazz drummer too, as well, a fluent jazz drummer. So the two of them together, you know, they'd be sitting around waiting for everybody else to plug in, and they're just coming up with, like, you know, some really progressive stuff, you know. And I don't know, you start having people like that are trained musicians and real musicians, and you start putting more and more of them together, eventually it's just going to come out to be a really good product for sure.
Yeah, definitely. I'm going to take a total huge detour, and it was the word product triggered this. And just real quick, I just wanted to ask you about, so Janet Olive did a really cool beard oil as bearded man to bearded man, an Exhorder. There's an Exhorter beard oil out there now. How did that come about?
Well, she's been doing beard oil for a good while now. As I understand it, she's been doing it, you know, I don't know, probably well over a year, I would guess. And she just messaged me one day and said, you know, would you be interested in putting your logo on my oil and making like a special edition of it? I was like, yeah, sure. Let's, you know, we'll send me a bottle of the product, and so she sent me one, and I use it, and it's really good, man. It smells nice. I never used, she was asking me about it, and I was like, I don't know anything about beard oil. I just wash myself with soap and shampoo and conditioner maybe sometimes, and you know, like, and then so she's like, no, use this stuff. It, you know, it's better. It smells really nice, and it did. My wife liked it, and so I said, you know, let's go ahead and give this a try. So yeah, she takes orders, and she's had some pretty satisfied customers from what I can tell. So
nice. Yeah, and it looks like she's kind of expanding out with other metal bands, and
yeah. I think she's got Venom Inc. and I don't know. She mentioned some other bands I wasn't as familiar with, but Venom Inc. You know, come on.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's cool. So anyway, yeah, I just wanted to ask you a little bit about that. So we'll get back to the music. But and speaking of music, so just last month, you guys released a new single. Is that going to be on the new album?
We released a new last month.
Yeah, well, at least it was posted on iTunes. So maybe you know what? Actually, it might be an older song that just got posted.
You talking about The Man That Never Was?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that actually came out February of last year.
Oh, so, last year. Okay, I think I missed that.
Yeah, and now they have just gotten made available on the platform you were talking about there. That could be, but yeah, we released that a year ago. Yeah, but that song's been very well received. People seem to like it. I love those mid-tempo, you know, punkish kind of Exhorder grooves. To me, that's like my favorite.
Yeah,
jazz order that we ever did was just getting in there, like punking it out, you know.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's a great song. Will that be on the new album, or is that just
no? That was actually that was from the More in the Southern Skies sessions. We actually intended for that to be on the album.
Oh, okay.
And And as it turns out, Ripping Flesh was a late ad, so we had to chop one, and that's the one that got chopped.
Oh, okay.
I fought for it though. There was other ones that I would have chopped before that one. I mean, it's done fairly well, so it's like, you know, that says it all right there. You know, I don't know if that's because it was released as a single, maybe so, but I don't know. It's pretty popular, I think.
Yeah, it seems like it's doing quite well, and obviously, you know, More in the Southern Skies, you know, has done really well. You know, you guys signed with Nuclear Blast. Yeah, it seems like it's, you know, really taken off. I see a lot of write-ups on it. I see a lot of posts about it. You know, I have since it was released, you know, almost 2 years, well, a year and a half ago. And I guess that, you know, timing was probably, I would imagine, a little frustrating. You know, you guys released that in September of 19, probably planning on some touring in 2020, and then the world kind of went to shit. So
it's like when you're a kid and you're watching Fonzie jump the shark, and to be continued, you know, chops it and freezes it, and you got to wait a week. The cliffhanger, you know.
Yeah. Are there? It's probably too early at this point, but are there plans for touring at this? I mean, like I said, it's probably too early. I don't know if you have anything, if there's been any discussion about that yet.
Well, we've actually announced a headlining tour of Europe in the fall.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, we're with Decibel touring in Europe, and they've got us on a tour with Gamma Bomb, Evil Invaders, and Chronosphere. So it's a 4-band bill and about 17 shows, I think. So
nice.
Should be fun. We're all like just so looking forward to it. We still have Psycho Las Vegas this year. That's still a go, and I think that's in August, maybe.
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah, I believe that's in August.
So yeah, and then I think Brutal Assault in the summer as well. There's Alcatraz. Yeah, so we're playing like maybe 3 festivals this year.
Cool. That's great. That's good to hear.
Yeah.
Really
so at some point, I guess we better start practicing.
And that brings up another question. With the live band, you know, I know Marzi, I would imagine Marzi is doing both the rhythm and lead work, or planning to, for the new album. Do you have somebody that will be playing as well for the touring, another guitar player, or has that been discussed yet?
No, we're going to remain a 4-piece. Marzi seems, to me, in my opinion, Marzi shines on the stage by himself when he's just able to go off. And, you know, Jason's got history of playing bass without a backup guitar with Grip Incorporated. It was really kind of a natural progression for us. And we had a very successful go of that on the Overkill tour. So the way we saw it was, let's just move forward like this and see how it goes. You know, we could always add later, but you know, it's harder to subtract. Yeah.
And you know, amazing musicians, all of them in their own rights. They're you know, I mean, I think the band is, I mean, I've always loved the band from the early days, and nothing against any of previous musicians, but I think the band right now is just incredibly tight. I mean, you listen to More in the Southern Skies, and it's a perfect album from the first note to the end note. I mean, it's just amazing all the way through. And like I said, really tight and great musicians. And I think it's important that people know too, that maybe that, you know, this isn't a new band. I mean, you've been working with these guys for a long time. I mean, you and Marzi did work together years ago, and then Jason actually he joined Exhorder like back in the 90s, correct?
He came to jam with us and hang out with us. I want to say it was maybe spring or summer of 93. We were done with touring for the Law, and we were really just kind of at a crossroads, really, because it was only me Chris and Jay Saravalo in the room with Jason. And so we were working, just trying to come up with a new album. I guess we had about 3 songs, and then it kind of fell apart. And at this point I had started jamming on something with my brother and a couple of other guys that never did come to fruition, but it was pretty cool. It would have been cool. And I also auditioned for COC around that time. Oh, wow. So yeah, so there was a lot going on at that time. And not enough of it was really, I don't know if this was what it was like at the end of the Ozzy era in Black Sabbath. It was like I don't know if we were just so tired of the disappointment and the frustration that we just really weren't terribly inspired, I don't think.
Right.
So, and I was really starting to play more and more on the guitar and bass. So I ended up sitting down with my brother, and we formed Penalty, which is eventually what became Floodgate. And we just we were taking turns on the bass and the guitar, just writing songs, and went and took our old dear friend Jimmy Bauer into the studio, and he played drums for us on it. And we just threw 5 songs together, and then we put a band together and got Steve and Neil in the band. And then we started making more demos, and eventually we signed with Roadrunner. So yeah, I'm probably branching like crazy right now.
Oh no, it's fascinating. It's really interesting. And I think that's the thing, you know, especially because you know, some of those projects aren't widely known. You know, even, you know, I've read about a lot of this stuff. Some of it's hard to find now musically.
Yeah.
With the internet, hopefully, you know, now with iTunes and things like that, a lot of stuff, you know, starting to find things more and more, which is cool.
You can.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, you can actually get the Floodgate album now on iTunes and
cool.
like Amazon and stuff. Yeah, Floodgate Penalty. So if you haven't heard it and want to download it or stream it, whatever, it's there.
Yeah, I've heard tracks, but I've never, I need to get a copy of that. Cool. In fact, I just ordered, and I was really excited about this. I think it's Earache Records is re-releasing the Slaughter at the Vatican on vinyl.
Yeah, so I saw something about that recently. I was like, what? So I still haven't like talked to anybody about.
Oh no,
I'm kind of curious myself.
Oh,
but happy. I mean, yeah, that's great.
Yeah. I mean, to have that released on vinyl, and it's colored vinyl too. I think it's gray, like marbled, maybe. I can't remember, but really. Yeah, when I saw that, I'm like, I have to own that immediately. So yeah, I put an order in for that, and yeah, and also in terms of vinyl and CDs and other merchandise, yeah. Fans should definitely check out your website. You know, this album, of course, is available online right now.
Yes, exhorter.com.
Yeah, so and lots of other cool merch too. So yeah, people should definitely check that out and grab some stuff. And I was floored when I ordered my copy of it because I believe you personally sent it to me. So kind of blew my mind.
And if you've ordered something from us since July, it's me that sent it to you.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
So thank you for that.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, I believe you had there was a little note in there that said, you know, thanks, you know, signed Kyle. And I'm like, what? Like, you know, I was expecting it to come from Nuclear Blast, but yeah, that was pretty cool. So you know, we talked about the new album stuff that, you know, a lot of stuff, you know, side projects that you've done. You're also the singer of Trouble. And I know you guys haven't released anything for quite some time. I think the last album was 2013, but I remember a couple of years ago, I read an interview and there were some songs in the works. Is that still something that's happening? Is Trouble still going to release an album?
Oh yeah. They've worked together. It happens in waves, man. They all get together and work on some stuff, or they, you know, work individually at home with, you know, drum machine or whatever. Rick writes his songs, Bruce writes his. Sometimes I guess they slam them together. But yeah, like I don't know. I want to say there's probably enough to have a full album, or maybe even enough for us to be able to cherry pick 9 of the best 12 or something like that. But it's cool that we have more stuff coming, and it's nice. Like now, I kind of inherited the Distortion field because they really were in the process of getting closer to finishing that album more than they were, still in the right pre-production phase. These sessions were done, and with this, aside from some older stuff, if they're writing newer material, it's basically a clean slate for me to have my own trouble kind of vision on it. So
nice.
To me, it's really important that I'm not ever discrediting anyone before me. I'm an Eric Wagner fan, and he actually emailed me and wished me luck and told me to have a good time when I took the job. I thought that was really cool.
That's really
very nice when I met him in person finally, because he was the last one for me to meet, but I'm a fan, so it's important to me that he digs it. I know, some purists have a tough time, I mean, not even just with Trouble, but with a lot of bands with, not their favorite version of the band, their classic version of the band not being together, but that some of that's just circumstantial and more of a people thing. Sometimes people don't always get along. It's tough, when people that really work well together but don't enjoy each other's company. That's a tough call. I think on occasion you see it happen where people can coexist and work like that, and sometimes you just can't.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm not even really talking about anything specific with any bands I'm in. It's just that's across the board. You don't get rushed very often with 3 people that just go and go and go and go. Even though Neil wasn't the original drummer, but from when he joined on, there was no other rush. But
yeah,
it's such a rarity. It's tough. Life gets in the way.
Right. And man, I think as a fan, speaking personally, you want bands to be like best buddies and all that, but yeah, at the end of the day, it truly, I mean, even though there's a lot of passion in its art, it's also a business, and feelings get hurt and money can be an issue with people. And, like you said, I mean, even though you want so-and-so to be in the band forever, they might not get along with the guitar player, or, they're, if they have some sort of crazy addiction or whatever is going on with them in their personal life, that might not work out with the band. And, I think I've always been, I'm sure there's certain periods of bands, especially if they've had multiple singers or guitar players or whatever, that, you love certain periods maybe more than others. But at the same time, I'm always kind of baffled by people that, say for instance, like Black Sabbath. I've always been baffled by people that, love Ozzy and hate Dio era. And it's like, it's the same music. It's just a different singer. Like for me, I love it all. I love both those singers. So I was always kind of baffled by that. Like when somebody leaves the band, like, oh, I hate them now. Like, the same band, same sound, just a little different. The singer's a little different, but I don't know. I guess, personal preference comes down to it.
Yeah. I mean, look at all the different versions of Deep Purple, Have you ever heard lousy Deep Purple? I haven't.
yeah, they're one of my favorite bands of all time. And they evolved and changed and kind of came back, and lots of ebb and flow with that band. So it's interesting how that works out.
It's got a lot to do with what I was talking about before with people. Once we write the songs and put them out there, they belong to everybody, and people, I think, get a little, like I said, possessive about how they feel about it and feel like maybe everyone else should feel about it. And I think in that regard, sometimes the human element of the people involved in making the music gets forgotten a little bit. And I don't think it's intentional. I just think, I look back on the albums I grew up on, and I'm like, yeah, that was my, freshman year or whatever. And like, so right there already, I'm putting myself in it, and it belongs to me over here. So, right. I think that's a hard thing to untrain yourself from. I think most people, if they sat down and talked with someone in a band, and were like, you understand my point of view, most people are logical enough, I think, that, well, I see it from your standpoint. Doesn't mean I like your version, dude. But okay, I don't expect everybody to like everything I do. Hell, right. Half my family never liked my music.
Speaking of trouble and being in that band and, having Eric contact you, is there, I mean, obviously you're a seasoned musician, you're a professional, but is there a point, like when you join that band, does the giddy 14-year-old Kyle are you like, oh my God, I'm in one of my favorite bands, like kind of pinch yourself, do you get a little starstruck at points, and you kind of have to step back from that? Kind of a stupid question, but
no, that's actually a really good question. And there's a story. So you're in luck. Yeah. So like when I the first person I ever met from Trouble was Ron Holzner. He and his now wife, Carol, they were in New Orleans. Ron I lived in an apartment with Jimmy Bauer for a couple of months, and then got my own place not long after that. And then not long after that, I think Ron was rooming with Jimmy here in New Orleans. And so I started talking to him at shows and stuff, and he was digging what Floodgate was doing. So we got to talking, and then I think Carol facilitated it really, that they were doing, there was like a festival kind of, it was indoor, but in Chicago it was called Expo of the Extreme. And it was basically a bunch of bands and porn stars and like a big convention, almost like a porn/extreme metal music convention. It was crazy. It was
interesting.
Really an interesting show. But yeah, so they were doing Trouble with a little help from their friends was what it was billed as. And it was basically the lineup from the Deaf American years, minus Eric. And so the idea was, I think, that we were going to get multiple singers to get up and play. And by the time it was over and said and done, they asked me if I just wanted to do the show by myself. I think there was some people that were unavailable, and it just kind of got down to the point, well, let's just see if one guy wants to do it. And so I did. And I worked really hard to learn the songs quickly, which isn't my strength these days. Especially now, like I'm so ADD, but I keep forgetting to go make an appointment to get checked out. So yeah, so I'm friends with Ron. I don't really know the other guys. I'd met Barry before, but I'd never met Rick or Bruce. And so I'm staying with Ron and Carol, and the guys come over for rehearsal in the basement. And I'm not kidding you, man. I was like nervous waiting for them to show up because I was a fan. And I just remember when they pulled up in his car, it seemed like it was like a long Cadillac or something. They got out looking all cool and shit, and carrying their guitar cases and stuff. So I'm holding doors open, helping them carry stuff, just being as friendly and cordial as I could. And we just started rehearsing for the show. I guess we did 2 days of rehearsal and then the show. So that was not much time to really, get in there. And yeah, I didn't have a lot of room for error, to say the least.
Right.
So we played. It was fun, man. It was really like just so special for me. I just felt like I was up on stage with God, and
yeah. And
it's funny because on tour now, I've known these guys for so long and lived with them on the road. And now that, even, Rick and Bruce, they like more like big brother types than, me feeling like, oh God, I'm around them. But sometimes on stage, if there's a part where the two of them go to the front of the stage to do their guitar dueling harmony things, and and I'm sitting back there just rocking out next to Marco or Rob, and I'm just looking at them going, God, you just don't see that every day, do you?
That's
I
cool.
love my job. Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah, that's when I'm like, wow, yeah, you're right.
That's amazing.
You know, and then when you play a show and people are digging it, you know, it's really nice when we play a show and you know, sometimes the old school fans will come up, or even their old friends, you know, they're like, man, I don't even know that we really wanted to like you, but we really, really think you did a great job, and, you know, respect how much you care for the songs. You know, it's like,
Yeah.
I'm like you, man.
Yeah, that's cool.
I wouldn't want to go to a shitty Trouble.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and I think you do an amazing job. You know,
Thank you.
for the material I've heard, you know, both the 2013 album you played on, and then also I've seen some live footage of you, and sounds great. Sounds amazing.
Thank you. Just trying to do justice to great songs, you know.
Well, I don't want to keep you all day. I do have two other questions. One, so you teach vocal lessons, correct?
I do.
Nice. How long have you been doing that?
On and off. I started maybe 13 or 14, and stopped for, like, my dad died in 14, and I kind of just lost the urge, and I just kind of withdrew. And maybe last year I just said, man, let me dust that off and start that again. You know, there's a lot of people, you know, especially pandemic, people are sitting around losing their minds with nothing to do, you know. So
yeah,
let me see if people want to try it again. And so I started up again at my website. You can sign up for either monthly blocks of hour-long lessons or monthly blocks of half-hour lessons, or you can even do like a trial lesson, just a one-timer. Cool. If you use the promo code trial, you'll get $5 off. So yeah, it's exhorterkyle.com if anyone's interested in it. There's a bio on me there with a lot of my history musically, you know, including choral singing. So yeah, I mean, my intention with singing lessons isn't teaching theory or anything. Lord knows I haven't read sheet music fluently in 30 years, but for the most part, it's teaching the fundamentals of how to sing and how to treat your voice, and things that you can do to improve your singing. So the goal is, for me, is to help anyone who wants to sing walk away better.
Nice. That's very cool. It's very cool. Yeah. So as you said, people can check that out on your website. You know, if anybody's serious about it, they want to get into that, then they should definitely sign up, check it out.
Yeah, thank you.
So last question for you today. My blog is Brews and Tunes. So I pair craft beer with metal mostly, but, you know, all sorts of music, but mostly metal, with albums. So Kyle, you're hanging out. What craft beer do you crack open, and what album do you put on?
Oh, wow. Well, that's a very loaded question. A huge fan of many types of beers. You know, I really do dig like the European Pilsners a lot. So, you know, I'll maybe drink Peroni from Italy. What's Pilsner Urquell from Czech Republic. But lately I've actually started kind of hitting up on the heavier beers again. Like I picked up on a 4-pack of Guinness Stout the other day, and I hadn't drank that since I was really in Ireland. So, man, why did I not drink this, you know, in over a year? So I drank it. I was like, oh wow, you know, like just such a different spin on beer. So, you know, I like Pilsners, lagers, stouts. I like good beer. So if I drink it and I don't care for it, doesn't mean it's not good beer. It might just be something that doesn't appeal to me. But, you know, I can usually taste something and go, that's a good beer, I just don't dig it. Versus, man, that's just terribly made.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, some things you like, some things you, not so much on. But if I'm sitting around having beers, I'll listen to so many different things. I don't listen to a whole lot of heavy music on purpose anymore for a long period of time. If it's on shuffle, I like hearing my heavy music most when it's on shuffle, or unless I'm writing my own stuff. That kind of started with me within the last 10 years, I guess, that I would rather listen to genres outside of what I do in my free time. I guess maybe to just kind of draw some kind of different influence and put it into something heavy, or, just to get my mind off of playing the heavy stuff and listening to it all the time. I don't know. It's not to say, like I said, I don't. I'd rather hear it on shuffle though. But I'll listen to Humble Pie. I'll listen to, old Scorpions, old Priest, for heavier stuff. But, I'm always going back to Bad Brains, and, I started diving into the Stooges this past year. Really, really dig that stuff I listened to when I was younger, but I'm just kind of revisiting and really like hearing it in a different way. So, but always, listen to Beatles or Black Sabbath, the things that are formative always keep coming back. But I might put on like a punk shuffle one day. I might put on like an 80s new wave shuffle one day. The Fix radio on Pandora never fails us. Or I might listen to the music, like listen to 70s funk, all that kind of stuff. It just depends. You get tired enough of something, you just find something else to listen to.
Yeah, that's great. That's very cool. Well, Kyle, thank you so very much for meeting with me today. I really, really appreciate it. I'm ecstatic about the direction of the band and the new album coming out. I cannot wait for that to hit the shelves. And yeah, good luck on the tours coming up. That's also very exciting news to hear that you guys will be touring soon, or doing festivals at least. So yeah, thank you again. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Victor. Thanks, Brews and Tunes.
All right.